It was my honeymoon trip, but my husband's best friend insisted on going into the sea for shark watching, despite being on her period. I reasoned against it, as sharks would go amuck from the scent of blood, only for Heidi to snap at me. "You're just jealous I have a nice body. That's why you don't want me to have fun with your husband." My own husband and his other buddies joined in too, brushing me off impatiently. "It's rare for us to hang out. Don't be a buzzkill." That's right, Hannah is young and beautiful. She should take pictures with the sharks. With that, they all went down the water despite my earnest protests, and her menstrual bleeding drew schools of sharks toward her right away. When I tried to help, she kicked me in the head, knocking me out and leaving me in the water as the sharks tore me to pieces. While I died under the sea in agonizing despair, Heidi, my husband, and their friends managed to get to safety. Once they returned to civilization, they reported my death as a drowning and pilfered all my wealth. While they rose to the peak of their existence, my parents, devastated by my death, both took their own lives. That was when I opened my eyes again and found myself back on the desert island where they were going for shark watching. I shouldn't go shark diving while on my period? Don't be ridiculous. Great white sharks rarely attack humans and were never part of their diet. You're just jealous I have a better body. And get this, not even the gods can stop me from going in the water. I shuddered as I listened to Heidi Sand's blasphemous rant. She was one of Larry Shaw's so-called bros, the same Larry who married into my family. The day after the wedding, we were going on our honeymoon when Heidi showed up with their usual clique, urging Larry to go shark diving with them near a desert island. I tried to stop them to no avail and was dragged along to a deserted island. And before going into the water, Heidi changed tampons in front of everyone. Blood is known to send sharks into a frenzy, and I tried to tell her to stay on the boat. Instead of listening, Heidi called me out for being paranoid in front of everyone, and everyone promptly agreed, saying that I was making a fuss out of nothing and making Heidi look bad. I expected Larry to stop her, only for him to snort at me. "You're just trying to make yourself look better. Are you done? How could you be so jealous? I'm going to make you pay if you ruin this for her." I could only watch as Heidi entered the water with my husband without any protective gear. To no surprise, the shiver of sharks erupted in a frenzy from the blood and attacked Heidi. Out of kindness, I tried to save her, only for her to kick me in the head, knocking me out and throwing me to the frenzied sharks. While Larry and their friends managed to get to Heidi to safety, I was shredded to pieces and left at the bottom of the ocean. Afterwards, they all testified to the police that I had ignored warnings against not going shark diving while on my period and ended up eaten. Larry hence inherited all my wealth and married Heidi just 3 months later, rising to the peak of their existence. As for my parents, they were left devastated by my death, and both of them took their own lives. That's enough, Zoe. Stop trying to harass Heidi. We're all here to play with the sharks, and going shark diving while on your period is perfectly fine. Larry's outburst brought me to my senses. I had been reincarnated. Even as I watched him fiercely defend Heidi, I growled coolly. It's her freedom. She can dive all she wants. I was just trying to be polite. Since fate had seen it fit to give me a second chance, I wasn't about to bother meddling. They wanted to die with Heidi? That suited me just fine. Meanwhile, our yacht had arrived in shark territory, while Larry's friends were still dissing me. What's worse than ignorance? Running your mouth while being ignorant. Don't go swimming while on your period? You only said that because Heidi is on her period. You just want to screw with her. Exactly. What did Larry even see in you? You're so petty with another woman. Heidi let them continue watching me gleefully. Having had enough, I took a deep breath and said, "You're right. Since I'm such a buzzkill, I won't be joining you. I'm leaving." Larry frowned and snapped at me right then. "Are you done? Everyone's traveled all the way here to see the sharks, but you have to make this about yourself." "I never wanted to come," I shot back. "You dragged me here." Heidi was the one who wanted to see the sharks. Seeing Heidi and Larry cringe in response, I laughed coolly. "Go swim with the sharks all you want. I won't stop you. Just give me the speedboat and I'll go back to the shore." The speedboat had an automated navigation system, and we were just a few dozen miles away from the mainland, so I could make it back with no problems. After all, I wasn't interested in stopping them from feeding the sharks. However, Larry promptly refused.
No.
This is our first trip as husband and wife. I can't let you go off alone. I'm worried. Heidi, too, hugged my arm and pouted. Come on, Zoe. We're already here, and you can't just throw petty tantrums because you don't like me. I mean, leaving by yourself? Everyone's going to be worried. And with those words, everyone was promptly glaring at me in disdain. Heidi is being nice, taking you to see the sharks. Forget not thanking her. You have to keep being a buzzkill. You make me sick. If only you were half as understanding as Heidi. Larry really lost big time marrying you. What a stubborn, ignorant woman. And after a while, Heidi sighed out loud. Anyway, you're not taking the speedboat. It's for emergencies, and the sea is very dangerous. If someone needs help, we'll be in trouble without the speedboat. Then, picking up a life buoy and throwing it at me, she continued, but if you really want to leave, use that. The seas are calm right now, and you'll make it back soon. You just want me to die, don't you? I could laugh right then. We were miles away from land, and with all the undercurrents, I'd just float off to the ocean on a life buoy. Heidi promptly pouted again. How could you say something like that? I'm worried about everyone's safety. How could we risk everyone's lives for you? How could you be so stubborn? She was ridiculous. If there was a problem, they would rather use the speedboat than the huge yacht. It was obvious that she just wanted to direct the lynch mob at me, and as I expected, everyone promptly leaped to her defense and yelled at me. You're so selfish. You want to take the speedboat? Hell no. Why should everyone pay for your childishness? I ignored their hollering, however, and pushed Heidi away before running toward the speedboat. However, Larry promptly caught me and slapped me across the face. There's no end with you. Then, reaching for a wrench, he struck the propeller repeatedly.
Clang.
In just a few hits, the propellers were left in pieces, disabling the speedboat and leaving me with nowhere to go. Let's see what you can do now, Larry then gloated. The others sneered at me gleefully, blood seeping out of my mouth while my cheeks swelled from the slap. Heidi even sighed, as if she cared. I'm doing this so that your honeymoon will be filled with happy memories. Quit being so stubborn and come with us. I promise you'll never forget this. Seeing the glee in her eyes, I realized that she wanted to ruin my honeymoon trip from the start. Still, I nodded to pretend to give in. All right, let's go. They wouldn't let me leave? Fine. I would stay and watch them swim to their own demise. Seeing that I caved, Larry calmed and urged everyone to prepare their scuba gear. Heidi made sure to wear a skimpy bikini that showed off her figure, even puffing her chest or rearing her posterior while warming up. All the men were all staring fixedly at her and watched as she jumped into the water without any gear, just like she did in my last life. Then she waved at them excitedly. Come on. The water's warm, and I don't even feel my period cramps. The sharks are right there, too. Hearing her, everyone else dived in and happily swam toward the deeper end. I was about to put on my gear when Larry pushed me into the sea. Why are you dragging your feet? Everyone's in the water already. Don't make them wait. He jumped in, too, pulling me by my wrist toward deeper waters. Seeing us, Heidi shoved me aside as if a prank, pulling Larry further ahead, and suddenly stopped and turned, handing me her phone, clearly asking for pictures. When I took it, she wrapped her arms around Larry's neck and pressed her chest tightly against him flirtatiously. Larry found nothing wrong with that, even holding her waist in turn, and beckoned for me to take a picture of the beautiful moment. The rest of their friends were all laughing and holding 2 thumbs up. I felt my stomach churning as those two frolicked like there was no one around. I must have been blind to marry a jerk like Larry. Seething with hatred, I allowed the phone to slip through my fingers and fall into the seat with a plop. Larry wheeled on me right then, glaring at me furiously, and started to swim toward me for another scolding. That was when a violent splashing echoed from the distance. Soon a shiver of great white sharks appeared. Each shark was massive, but they rarely attacked unprovoked. Just seeing them left me shuddering uncontrollably. But Heidi's eyes lit up and dragged Larry along to the sharks, while beckoning for everyone to follow. When they had gone far enough, she turned to smirk at me. Then, taking off Larry's scuba mask, she wrapped herself around Larry like a koala to a tree and jammed her lips on his. Larry was stunned for a moment, but he soon got into it and kissed her back. Seeing that, their buddies quickly made a circle around them, taking photos with their phones repeatedly. I watched from the distance, unaffected as Larry and Heidi kept swapping spit, my eyes fixed on Heidi's groin. None of them noticed the crimson slowly seeping out of Heidi's bikini, spreading into the water toward the sharks. Heidi and Larry remained glued to each other. But the more they kissed, the more Heidi bled from her groin. The sharks that had been peacefully circling the distance suddenly seemed to accelerate, their aggression obvious. However, none of the others noticed, and they kept taking photos and cheering excitedly, like children. I watched as the sharks approached, knowing that it'd be too late before long. I tried to sneak away again, but Larry and his Brian-dead friend scowled as he thought I was being a buzzkill again and swam straight toward me, pushing me off. Losing balance, I gulped mouthfuls of water that left my chest burning, while he pointed repeatedly at the yacht, clearly telling me to leave and stop being a buzzkill. Seeing the disgust he had in his eyes, my last ounce of sanity dropped. In that case, I hope all the sharks brutally murder all those worthless sons of bitches. Just the thought fills my heart with joy. I faked a sad face, pretending that I was reluctant to return to the yacht. Naturally, no one else cared that I was being chased off since they'd be happier without a buzzkill like me anyway. They excitedly took photos of the sharks circling them, oblivious that each of them were leering at them and completely restless. I turned to see Heidi grinning smugly after I got chased off and pulled Larry along to the center of the shiver. With her leading them, everyone excitedly followed. The sharks, too, started to swim toward Heidi as well, finally finding the source of the blood, their movements quickening as they started circling the group. And now all they had to do was wait for the first strike. Heidi, however, naively thought that they were friendly, even reaching out for the tail of the nearest shark. But in an instant, the largest great white shark shot forward, its razor-sharp teeth chomping down on Heidi's hand. Everyone's faces dropped as her blood spurted, dyeing the sea red. Larry was the closest to Heidi, and he found himself freezing up as he was staring at another great white shark's mouth filled with teeth biting his leg. The first shark struck Heidi's arm. Her scream echoed across the water. Before anyone could react, another shark slammed into Larry. Its teeth shredded his leg from knee to ankle, leaving flesh hanging in ribbons. The ocean erupted into chaos. Everyone scattered. Some were bitten while trying to escape. Others crashed into one another in blind panic. The sharks only needed a few minutes to leave lasting devastation. By the time the Coast Guard arrived, nobody looked the same. Larry survived. Heidi survived. Most of their friends survived. And every single one of them wished they hadn't. Larry lost his right leg below the knee. Several reconstructive surgeries couldn't restore normal mobility. The man who once loved showing off his athleticism spent the rest of his life walking with a prosthetic and chronic nerve pain. 2 of his friends lost arms. Another suffered severe facial injuries. One developed such severe PTSD that he couldn't go near water without suffering panic attacks. As for Heidi, fate seemed determined to make her carry the heaviest burden. The shark that bit her hand left permanent nerve damage. 3 fingers had to be amputated. Her thigh injury required multiple surgeries. Deep scars covered her body. But the physical injuries weren't what ruined her life. The investigation did. The yacht cameras had recorded everything. Her mocking, her insults, her encouragement for everyone to enter the water, her refusal to let me leave. The footage spread everywhere. People were horrified. The public didn't see a carefree young woman. They saw an arrogant idiot whose recklessness had gotten nearly everyone killed. Families of the injured turned on her immediately. Larry's parents blamed her. The friends who lost limbs blamed her. Even strangers online blamed her. Every news article used the same clips. Heidi laughing. Heidi showing off. Heidi dismissing warnings. Heidi leading everyone deeper into shark territory. Her name became synonymous with stupidity. Then came the lawsuits. Medical bills reached staggering amounts. Insurance companies refused to cover everything. The injured survivors sued one another trying to recover damages. Former friends became enemies overnight. Whenever Larry looked at the stump where his leg used to be, he thought of Heidi. Whenever one of the others woke from another nightmare, they thought of Heidi. Their hatred only grew. Larry eventually learned something else from the investigation. I had been right. The experts confirmed that entering the water while actively bleeding in an area known for large predatory sharks had dramatically increased the risk. The warning he mocked had been correct all along. That realization destroyed what little affection he still had for Heidi. Their relationship collapsed. Every argument returned to the same point. You got us into this. No, it wasn't my fault. You wouldn't listen. You followed me. The screaming matches became legendary. Years later, they were still trapped in each other's lives through lawsuits, debt, and bitterness. Neither could move on. Neither could escape what happened. Meanwhile, I walked away. My parents were alive. My wealth remained mine. My future belonged to me. And every so often, I'd see another article about Heidi complaining that the world had treated her unfairly. The comments were always the same. You were warned. People suffered because of you. Take responsibility for once. For Heidi, that was the true punishment, not death. Living long enough to watch everyone she cared about hate her. The lawsuits dragged on for years. At first, Heidi thought her friends would eventually calm down. After all, they had all chosen to get into the water. They had all laughed at the warnings. Surely they would share the blame. She was wrong. People are very generous with blame when they're healthy. They're much less generous when they're staring at hospital bills, prosthetics, and lifelong pain. Every time one of Larry's former friends struggled to button a shirt with a missing hand, they thought of Heidi. Every time another woke up screaming from nightmares about sharks, they thought of Heidi. Every time Larry felt the phantom pain in the leg he no longer had, he thought of Heidi. Before long, the entire friend group turned against her. Not openly at first. It started with silence. Group chats vanished. Invitations stopped arriving. People stopped answering her calls. Then came the lawsuits. One friend sued her for negligence. Then another joined. Then another. Their lawyers dug through every recording from the yacht. Every message. Every photo. Every video. The footage of Heidi mocking safety concerns became courtroom poison. Again and again, attorneys played the clips. Again and again, juries watched her laugh. Again and again, she was confronted with her own words. You can't stop me. You're just jealous. Nothing's going to happen. The more evidence emerged, the more isolated she became. Even her own family started distancing themselves. Her parents were exhausted by the endless legal battles. Her siblings stopped defending her. Nobody wanted to be associated with the woman the public had nicknamed Shark Girl. Meanwhile, Larry became her loudest enemy. The man who once defended her against everyone now blamed her for everything. Whenever reporters asked about the incident, he never missed an opportunity. I should have listened to Zoe. I ruined my life following Heidi. I lost my leg because of her arrogance. Every interview spread across social media. Every interview brought another wave of criticism. Heidi tried fighting back. She blamed Larry. She blamed the friends. She blamed bad luck. She blamed the sharks. She blamed everyone except herself. The strategy only made things worse. Even the surviving friends who had once worshipped her grew disgusted. One by one, they publicly admitted that Zoe had been the only person who had tried to stop the disaster. The contrast was devastating. My reputation recovered completely. Heidi's never did. Years later, a reunion was organized for the survivors. Not because they missed one another, because they were finally settling the last legal disputes. The atmosphere was ice cold. Nobody sat near Heidi. Nobody greeted her. Nobody even looked at her. The woman who had once stood at the center of the group now sat completely alone. As she listened to the others talking and laughing together, she finally understood something. They weren't taking revenge through violence. They were taking revenge by moving on without her, by making her carry the blame alone, by refusing to forgive, by refusing to forget. When the meeting ended, everyone left together. Everyone except Heidi. She remained sitting by herself in the empty room, watching the door close behind the last person, watching the silence settle in. For the first time, there was nobody left to defend her. Nobody left to flatter her. Nobody left to tell her she was right. Only the consequences of the choices she had made. And unlike the scars on her body, those consequences never healed.